I want to come to the non-cigarette FMCG business, and I want to start by asking you actually a very simple question on how do you characterize the demand environment right now when it comes to non-cigarette FMCGs, which is biscuits, packaged foods, as well as personal care?
In a way, it's very similar to the cigarette industry. As the economy improves and grows, consumption of FMCG goods will increase, packaged consumer goods will increase. Now it depends, therefore, how quickly the economy grows and how widespread the growth in the economy is. And when I say widespread, you can have a 9% growth rate, a 10% growth rate, which is concentrated in a few areas, either geographically or demographically. Whereas you can have a 7% growth rate, which is spread across a wider demographic band in the country. For the packaged goods industry, for the FMCG industry, the wider the spread of economic growth, the better the growth rate is.
What is the impact of the food inflation over the last 3 months? Because the last we spoke, and the last interview, at least I did with you, was late last year when we weren't seeing such a dramatic food inflation number. And in fact, at that time, we were still talking about comparative year-on-year input prices, being more favorable.
Yeah, right.
But clearly, in the last 3 or 4 months, things have changed dramatically. A, you've seen food inflation. Is that impacting demand? B, you've seen input prices go up. So how is that changed?
It's very interesting. You've got a very strange situation today. We suspect, and the government of India also suspects, that India is going to have wheat coming out of its ears. The crop is going to look very, very good, and we're already seeing signs of that.
Right.
So we're in a situation where you've got high traditional input costs, with I suspect softening of input costs as we move into both the next two agricultural seasons. So what I suspect is going to happen, you're going to have a combination of relatively high inflation in some input areas, relatively low inflation in some input areas, and therefore if we are able to sustain an agri input level of prices fairly consistent with what they are today, I'm not too worried.
But what has the experience of the last 2-3 months been when we did see very high food inflation numbers? Did that impact demand?
Well, for the industry to some extent it did impact the rate of growth of demand. It did not impact demand to that extent for us, for ITC, because in any case we are growing at such a rapid rate in our other FMCG products. So our rate of growth has always been far, far higher than the industry rate of growth. So keeping that in mind, general FMCG growth in ITC as well, for the last few months, I will not give you the last quarter numbers, it will come out in a few days' time, but the rate of growth has been very, very good.
The previous quarter you announced something like between 23 and 24%, and that was in your press release and a stated number, I think. So that number should not be a problem, right? So have you been able to maintain that?
Our rate of growth has been very, very good, that's what I'm saying.
A colleague of yours was quoted as saying that we are unable to sustain rising input prices further and are looking to hike prices by 7 to 8% over the next 1 to 2 months, at 1 to 2 month period, referring to the first few months of this fiscal. And I'm guessing this is actually for food products.
Yes, absolutely.
So have those price hikes happened? Are they likely to happen in the near future, or are you still holding back? Because like you said, you're expecting maybe some relief on the end of wheat prices. The sugar might still be, a bit of a problem.
Let's put it this way, that actual pricing in the marketplace will be a combination of having to take up prices because of input prices going up, and the competitive scenario. No company certainly not a company with a very small market share, can take up prices beyond what the market is and what the market leaders are actually performing on a category-to-category basis.
Luckily for you, even other more dominant players, like for instance Britannia in the biscuits category, has said that they are also looking at price hikes, all again in the first few months of this new fiscal. So are we likely to see industry-wide price hikes in this month or two? Or are you still waiting and watching
to see
the input price situation?
We are quite clearly waiting and watching. There may be price increases, there may not be price increases, and I don't think anybody will increase prices across the board. There will always be certain categories, certain subcategories, sub-subcategories where prices will go up, certain other categories, the price increases, the normal price increases based on regular inflation may not happen. Also, one must also remember that India is still stuck in this trap, let's call it. The 50 paisa syndrome has now vanished, fortunately, but you have the 1 rupee syndrome, the 2 rupee syndrome, the 5 rupee syndrome, the 10 rupee syndrome. And India was in the danger, in fact, consumer goods FMCG India was in the danger of moving towards what is called the empty wrapper syndrome. You keep reducing the content and not increase the price. and one day, there's nothing left. But hopefully, I think people have, turned a little bit sensible.
Okay, so as far as from what you said, if things improve in terms of input costs, stabilizing a little bit, if the expected growth and widening of the market continues, as is most people's expectation, likely, because the projections for economic growth are pretty optimistic.
Right.
And if there are no major shocks to the economy from the external world or otherwise, then you do hope to continue to achieve the 20 to 25% growth rate in non-cigarette FMCG businesses over the foreseeable future, and you're on target to achieve break-even for the entire category by FY12.
It's pretty good, it seems to be we are on target, quite right. Now, which year we break even or not, I'm not going to comment. That was your comment, actually, not mine.
Okay.
I'll explain to you why. It's not that we're trying to hide any numbers or something. We could be launching new categories.
Of the entire FMCG pie, how much does food contribute in terms of revenue, the non-cigarette FMCG pie?
Like I said, we don't give data on individual
Give me 2/3,
brands.
1/3. As they say in Hindi, andazan figure.
Since you know the total other FMCG size, because that's published data, and if I give you 2/3, 1/3, you'll know exactly what the food size is. We don't, so let it be.
So you won't tell me what the contribution of personal care is, or what the contribution of food
not at this point of time. See, to a very large extent, those people who have access to data of, let's say, AC Nielsen, etc., which you do, or at least you can access it, that'll give you some indication. Not that that's very accurate, but it'll give you a fairly decent.
That's why I wanted it from you. Okay,
Is
it fair to say that Ashirvad and Sunfeast are your key food drivers right now?
They're the largest brands in the food category, quite clearly so.
Have you seen substantial growth in Bingo over the last 6 to 8 months?
Yes, we have.
Are you expecting to add in a major product or brand fashion to this basket of food products?
We are continuously evaluating.
Not variants.
No,
I'm saying
I know. We are continuously evaluating lots and lots of categories, new categories, not only in foods, whether it's in foods or personal care or whatever. We keep evaluating the categories. When we believe that we've got the right products at the right market time, we may come in with the new categories. ITC is hungry for growth, no question about it.
Dairy, ice cream.
I can give you the list of
chocolate.
FMCG products.
So I'm working by elimination because you won't tell me.
Well, all the items you mentioned right now, at least ice cream in this heat is a good idea, but it's difficult to say.
All right. Are you intending to get into detergents?
Detergents?
Yes.
Even if we were, I wouldn't tell you. So.
You're amongst the last standing few diversified conglomerates. There are not that many. Many of them have chosen to restructure their businesses, separate out the businesses into different companies, list them or monetize them in some fashion. The question I'm trying to ask is, yes, you have many sexy businesses. Paper is one. FMCG will become one very quickly.
Agri, IT. Packaging. Lots of them.
Are we looking at any more such businesses at ITC?
Difficult to say, ma'am. I mean, it could be that certain businesses reach a particular size, and therefore within it could be split up. It could be that we are looking at some new areas, but specifics, no. At this point of time, there's no way I'll be able to talk about them.
Mr. Grant, I should have done this at the beginning of the interview, but I'm sorry, doing it right almost at the fag end, and that is congratulations to your elevation to the board.
Thank you.
So the question that comes right after that is, this puts you right in the succession line, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Don't tell me to ask Mr. Deveshwar about this, or the board for that matter.
Well, you have to ask the shareholder and the board, because succession to any kind of job in a corporate level is dependent on the shareholder and the board, isn't it?
But the fact that, as someone who has had that many years of experience at ITC and as a business head, you've moved up to the board, that's come after a long gap at ITC,
well,
from what I understand.
Actually, if you look at the history of ITC...
It's come after a long gap. It's happened before, but it's come after a long gap.
In fact, it's always happened that way. If you look at the history of ITC, most executive directors, in fact, all executive directors have come up from heading a business of one type or the other. And ITC is one of the, I wouldn't say one of the only companies, but certainly one of the few companies where people tend to stay on in the company for long periods of time. Our attrition rates are one of the best in the country at this point of time, for example. So I've been with ITC for 30 years. There are lots of other people who've been in ITC for as long, if not more.
But you're the first business head that's been elevated to a board position in the last 9 to 10 years?
Perhaps because there was, in terms of our structuring, in terms of our corporate governance processes, we didn't need more people on the board, did we? I mean, I was running a set of businesses for the last 10 years, and so were other people in ITC running other businesses for the last 10 years.
So does this change or enhance or expand your responsibilities in the company?
I'm currently looking after the FMCG businesses of the company. So since a lot of them, not all, but since a lot of them, I was part of the start-off processes. So it's good fun to sort of get back into some of them. And that should be interesting on a personal level.
And it could very well, over the course of the next many years, put you in line for succession.
You'll have to ask the board and the shareholders that, won't you, once again?
All right, I'll get onto the phone immediately. Mr. Grant, thank you so much for your time, and thank you very much for talking to us.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.